Hello everyone. As you can probably notice that this weekly report is way lighter than usual. In fact, it's about one day lighter than usually when I would do it, because usually I would do that on Monday morning. But in this week, more particularly on yesterday, on Monday this week, something kind of extraordinary happened. So I still need more time to observe what is going on. But that's one reason that I didn't do the weekly report on yesterday as usual. Okay, so what is obviously, as you can see on this page, is that they didn't release the two documents usually released after the news conference on each day. So as you can see, usually they would release three on each day, three documents about the pandemic each day. By they I mean the Beijing Municipal Health Commission, which is the health department of Beijing's municipal government. So as I mentioned before, this is my major data source where I can acquire data on the COVID situation and their COVID policies and so on. So as you can see here, on the 26th, there were 25th, three documents here. And sometimes there are two, but usually they always have these two documents, which is one with a very long title. This one usually released on around 8 o'clock in the morning, and two or one more would be released in the evening or in the afternoon after they had the news conference. So the first one, nowadays, the first one only contains how many symptomatic and asymptomatic cases have been reported on the day before, as well as the number of patients being discharged from hospital. So that's the morning document. And the evening documents would contain, that's the evening document on the day before yesterday. Usually they would contain a kind of like a specific number of light, medium, and severe illnesses that's been reported on the day before, as well as on the same day before 3 o'clock. So that's like a couple of minutes before the conference. So they would kind of put together this document, and they would talk about this document at the conference and release this document online later. So that's what they do. But yesterday, as I said, they didn't have the conference for some reason. And also they didn't release the two or one more, let's say, evening documents on yesterday. So which means I do not have a complete data on the day before yesterday, namely how many light, medium, and severe illnesses have been reported. But I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty confident actually they didn't, or at least they didn't want to report any severe illness. Probably there are none at all. But this one medium illness actually has been reported on the day, like 2 days earlier, on the day before yesterday. This one only been reported from midnight to 3 p.m. on the 26th. So I would say this data is incomplete. But yesterday, on the 27th, there were no case being reported at all. Only 38 being discharged. So again, there wouldn't be any severe or medium symptoms anyway. So that's 0 case for yesterday. And that's so much about COVID situation here. And today I would really want to talk about those possibilities as for to where Beijing would go from this point. Because also it's happening, I'll just show you the chart for the moment. And I won't really talk about this, so you can just look at this. I'll show you this when I talk about something else. That's where Beijing want to go from this point on. Because also on yesterday, there is, I'll call that a municipal congress of the Chinese Communist Party, which have been assembled only on yesterday. So what is this? In Communist China, usually they would have a major congress every 5 years. So I believe this is from kind of adopted from Soviet Union, particularly under Joseph Stalin. So back then they would do like a 5-year plan, a plan for every 5 years. So which means 5 years earlier they would have a similar congress, and in this year this they will have again, which was assembled only yesterday. And on the meeting yesterday, the party leader of Beijing, not the national leader, not Xi, but the kind of like his equivalent of the municipality of Beijing, Cai Qi, he mentioned that in the next 5 years, Beijing will continue this zero COVID policy for 5 years to come. It's very interesting, because you can't really predict, right? Normally you can't really predict that for the next 5 years you'll have COVID. And there's no way to predict that. In fact, there's so many countries that have been moving away from COVID, and COVID is no longer the hot topic or the top topic in many countries. And people are still just living, they're fine to what I know. People are not dying on the street out of COVID or anything. So how can they predict that in the next 5 years they will have the same situation, the COVID situation, as they had in the first half of this year? Another interesting point is that the official media of Beijing or of China delighted the words next 5 years kind of just shortly after they published the contents of the meeting, because usually that's like an internal meeting of the Communist Party, so they wouldn't kind of go live or kind of reveal all the details that's going on inside the meeting, but nonetheless the news reporter will just kind of review some of them. But they deleted the terms next 5 years kind of shortly after they released the first version. But in general, I don't think this matters, because as I said, a Congress meeting like this is to decide where China or where the municipality of Beijing wants to go for this next 5 years. So everything said during the Congress would be for the next 5 years, with or without them saying that. So in this case, in this sense, it doesn't really matter. So what really matters is that Beijing wants to continue zero COVID policy for however long they are required to. And this is kind of, I would say it's kind of a mismatch mismatches with what was going on yesterday, because also on yesterday, all the schools were reopened. All the students came back to school, and even some persons in my social network, they are in the teaching community. They said they just received a kind of like a sudden notice for them to go back to work, kind of in last weekend. So their kind of superiors, they told them to go back to work on Monday, on next Monday. So that's what happened. And so if they want to continue this zero COVID policy or zero COVID, I would say it's kind of like a zero COVID society, why they just want to push all the students back to school? And because usually school holiday comes, I believe in July in China. So right now it's not school holiday in China yet, but very soon, there will be a school holiday. So it's only like few weeks. But why would they just push all the students and teachers back to school and reopen all of them? And that's very strange, especially compared with what the party leader said in the Congress yesterday. They want to continue this zero COVID policy, right? So still, I don't really have a whole answer for it. But more research needs to be done in this area, and especially more observation. So I think next 5 years would be a very interesting 5 years, very meaningful for at least for people like me who are interested in social science, because I am a social scientist, at least applied one. I'm not really academic social scientist, but I'm an applied anthropologist, so it's like an applied social scientist. And yeah, it will be very interesting. I'm very glad that I have come to China in last year, and it's been very fruitful for me, and I believe the years to come will be even more fruitful. And then for the next thing, I would like to have you have a look at this yearly estimation that I mentioned in my earlier videos. Okay, so the methodology is to have the sample total. For instance, for the total cases, I use the total case number during the last few months of period, have that multiplied by how many days in a year, which is 365, divided by how many days being sampled. So the second part is how many sampled range are there in a year, and having that multiplying how many cases, for instance, being reported during this range. So which allows me to have an estimation of how many, if this COVID situation goes on for a year, how many cases would there be? How many people would get severe symptoms? How many people would die? Obviously, there wouldn't be any people die from the COVID according to current sample, because there are no deaths being sampled at least in Beijing, and also have that compared with the influenza data being reported by a World Health Organization. So I would just like to briefly show this, because just in case maybe next day or next week they will just say, this pandemic is over. So far that will be all the data I have. So I want to give you a kind of like an overview based on my current data. So this is how many people would be tested positive throughout a year if the current COVID situation goes on in Beijing. How many people in Beijing would be tested positive? And that's the rate. And the symptomatic, rate of symptomatic, asymptomatic, which means people being tested positive but they don't have any symptoms, and so on. So I believe you can read everything. And so compared with influenza, it would be very easy to see that COVID, at least the Omicron variant of COVID, is not very serious as a disease compared with even just influenza. Okay, sorry about the noise earlier. Because there are some renovations going on in my neighbors. I believe their renovations being delayed by the lockdown earlier, so now they are having their renovation and making some noises. This is as much I want to put into my weekly report of this week. As I said, the more observation needs to be done in order to present to you a better result, which I will be doing in the next few weeks. I may or may not have another weekly report next week, so I'll see what's going on and if there's something worth to talk about. Okay, so thank you for watching. Have a good one. Have a good day or good evening. Goodbye.